10% of all the new cars sold in Iowa come from the Karl Auto Group. Our neighbors trust us to have the largest selection and the highest standards. To our current customers, thank you. And to our future customers, see for yourself why Karl drives Iowa.
Your dealer for life, it's the Karl way.
As a student athlete, life can be pretty demanding. Fortunately, I can always count on Fairway to help me refuel and bounce back. It's why this is right where I want to be. Fairway, your home court advantage.
I feel like we can all take a deep breath. Let's go, Iowa State. Thank you all for joining us for the Cyclone Fanatic postgame show. I'm your host, Leah Nelson. I am joined by Jackson Pence. Woo! Thanks for joining us in the Northwest Bank studios. Iowa State wins a nail-biter, 74-69. We'll get into it, but let's thank a couple of our sponsors. Starting off with Karl Auto Group, they're the presenting sponsor this whole season. Shout out to them. We could not do it without them. They are huge supporters of Cyclone Fanatic and the Cyclones. And then our friends over at Fairway Meat and Grocery. Make sure you check them out for all of your meat and grocery needs. Oh my goodness.
Ooh, needed that one.
I was going to say, they just don't make it easy, but what a nail-biting game. And I've seen some of the comments come through, and it's like, you know, we got the dub, Cyclone State, it's all that matters. But exactly. That's what I'm talking about. People are really excited. We needed that after an insane week as Iowa State fans. But Jackson, I think that this kind of shows just how dominant Iowa State is. I know people were kind of questioning it based on their schedule, but what are your thoughts right after this game?
Man, I just every time Iowa State got out to some kind of lead, Iowa always answered back. And
Right.
It was more specifically right after Iowa would call a timeout, Jensen would call a play, and they just hit a three to get themselves right back into it. But you gotta give props to Iowa, because every time Iowa State tried to make a run, they got themselves right back into it. And Iowa State was just, as Matt Campbell says, tougher for longer, and it turned out to be like that.
I mean, kudos to Iowa. It is not easy to go into Hilton and to compete like they did. Let's talk Audi Krooks. Obviously, I think we were both talking or messaging and tweeting during the game. She can't be stopped. She is unreal no matter what she does. You know, how does she continue to be so dominant no matter who Iowa State is playing?
I think she's just so good at like creating her own space. And, you know, a lot of people say, well, maybe she might carve out a little space and create some offensive fouls, but she does a really nice job of, even when they're fronting her, she doesn't try to force and get in front of them. She's totally fine with playing behind and getting those lob passes from Addie Brown and Jada Williams. And she just does a really nice job. And she doesn't get frustrated either. She knows, hey, they're trying to take me away. What can I do to counter? And she's got 4 or 5 different moves that we haven't seen. Last year, we didn't see those as much. And this year, she just has a whole array of weapons that she can use as post moves. And my goodness, she is really hard to stop. And that's against a really good big and Ava Hayden. She's a really nice player. And, you know, I listened to you and Jake on pregame. Whoever got in foul trouble was going to win this game. And Iowa was in some severe foul trouble. Hayden fouling out, and Stolke really close to as well. So that's a really nice win. That's a huge win for Iowa State. Bill Finley deserves a win like that. They haven't had very much luck in this series. So, you know, credit to Iowa State, man. That's a huge win.
Such a huge win. I also want to talk about Jada Williams. Jake and I kind of mentioned in the pregame too how excited we both were for her to experience this atmosphere in Hilton. And I think she just did an amazing job. I believe she had career high 12 assists. And it just, assists don't always get the attention. And I think I just want to give her all the credit tonight. And she facilitates so well. But how important has it been for Jada to be an addition to the Iowa State team this year?
She's kind of exactly what they needed. And it's somebody who can really distribute the ball at a high rate. You saw 12 assists tonight. That's like pro level stuff that she's doing out there. And she's finding her shot too. You know, she hit a couple threes tonight to keep Iowa within striking distance in that third quarter. But like you said, she just knows where the ball needs to be, and whether it's to Addie Brown in the post, or pick and pop with Addie, or just throwing it inside to Audie, she just knows where the ball needs to be. And having somebody like that is huge for this team, because there's so many weapons out there, and whoever's open, she's going to get it to the right person, and she doesn't really try to force anything. She may have turned the ball over a couple times tonight, but she does a nice job just not trying to force it where it's not open.
She's definitely a fun player to watch. I always like to be positive, but I think that game was a little bit too close, for us to really enjoy. I want to ask you, what are some things that you noticed tonight that Iowa State really needs to work on, going into conference play?
I thought that's a good question. I really thought late in that game they tried to force it to Audi a little too much. You saw when Iowa made that run to cut it within single to one possession, they really tried to force it into Audi, and ended up forcing it and turning it over, or just not getting a good look in general. And that kind of comes with learning how to play more with each other, because some of these girls are new to the team and they just need a little bit more time to get together. And that's their first game pressure that they've played with all
Right.
season. So that's something that they're going to keep learning, and they're going to keep getting better at too. So, I mean, I really had a great time watching that. That was one of the best women's basketball games I've seen in a long time. And Iowa is that's a huge win for Iowa State, because like Jake said, the Big 12 women's basketball, their conference is kind of down a little bit in terms of how good it usually is. That's a nice win for Iowa State to have, because come March,
Right.
Iowa's going to be right up there with Iowa State in terms of a 1 or 2, 3, 4 seed. So that's huge to have the head-to-head against them.
I kind of want to talk a little bit about Chit Chat Wright. Incredible player.
She's awesome.
And I think it would have been a totally different game. I know she was kind of day by day. She had an upper body injury, I believe, and then they announced that she'd be playing tonight. But talk about the defense that Iowa State put on her in that second half, because she was going off first half, and then she kind of was able, they were able to settle her down a little bit more. So what did you see?
I think that's what makes this Iowa State team different. And like we've listened to Chris and Brent talk about, this is probably the best Iowa State team that he's seen covering Iowa State. That's just what makes them different, is they can guard. And, not to say that Finley's past teams haven't been able to guard, but this team has the guards to guard the other players' backcourt. So you saw Ariana Jackson, you saw Jada Williams, 2 elite defenders out there guarding 2 really good offensive guards for Iowa. And one thing I noticed tonight, and maybe this might change throughout the season, is Iowa State was hugging a lot of ball screens. So they would, on the screen, the post player, and Audie was putting her chest on the shoulder of somebody so they could go underneath ball screens. And I like Jada Williams trying to trail those ball screens a lot. That's just something we haven't seen Iowa State do a whole lot. And it may give up a few open mid-range jumpers, but if you're playing by the analytics, you'll live by that all day long.
Besides Audie and Jada, who were some of the Iowa State players that really stood out to you tonight? And who do you hope continues to just continue to grow in their position?
I think Kinsey Hare had some really timely shots tonight. I mean, you saw her hit a huge 3 there in the fourth quarter. She's just, reliable. Every time you need a bucket, or the team's in a little bit of a drought, she's always comes up with a huge drive, how to drive to get to the free throw line for 2 free throws. But she had a really nice game tonight. Maybe not shows up in the stat sheet, but whenever the team needed something, kind of a boost, she gave it to them. And then the other person, Ariana Jackson's just one of my favorite players to watch.
Same.
She just does everything really well, and her defense is really good. It's really fun to watch too. As a basketball guy, I just love watching her guard people. So I just, those two in general, Audie and Addie and Jada obviously get the headlines. They're terrific players, but you saw Elisa Williams come in and play some really good minutes tonight. Evangelina Paul came in and played some really good minutes. This team is really deep, and it's, with no Reese Beatty for the next couple of weeks, that kind of hurts. But again, this team is really deep, and when they're healthy, that's one of the best teams in the country.
And we hope they continue to just keep getting better. What are some things or key takeaways that they can take from this game moving forward?
I think, like I said, maybe, didn't really shoot the free throw. They got to the free throw line a lot, but did not convert very much, and that kind of hurt them late in that game and gave Iowa some chances to really try to get back in it and potentially win. But like we talked about, Jada Williams had missed 1 free throw all season, and she misses 2 late in that game. that's just stuff we're not going to see very often. And like Addie Brown had a couple, just 2 free throws, 50% at the line every time. She doesn't usually do that. So that's one of those things where it's like, maybe just didn't go in tonight, but they'll come around and I think they'll put those in too.
I was going to say knock on wood, but I don't think we're going to see them missing too many more. They're the type of players to go back in the gym and work on it. And I guarantee you Jada's not going to miss any more of those free throws. Like you said, she was 96% free throw shooter before those two. So there's another in-state rivalry game coming up on Sunday against Northern Iowa. What do you hope to see during that game? It's huge. I mean, it doesn't seem as big as this Iowa game, but I mean, we remember what happened last year. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say is they went into Cedar Falls last year and lost, and that was a good UNI team last year. They had one of the best players in the country. I can't remember her name, the point guard.
Maya McDermott.
Maya McDermott, yes, really good player. But they're going to have to play their best because UNI is a good basketball team. So, like you said, it's another rivalry game. It's kind of hard to come off a high like you are having your biggest rival in Iowa, and then you're going to play another one. It's the first 5 minutes of that game are going to be huge to determine where they're at mentally and how it's going.
And I mean, Hilton is unreal to play in. I don't know if it was as loud as it was for like my TV when I was watching it, but it was insane. It's exciting and it's cool to see just all of those Iowa State fans get out there and like support the basketball team, especially after this crazy week. But what do you think of these Iowa State fans going forward, and just how awesome are they?
I mean, I wish I was there. The crowd on TV
looked
insane, and I can't wait to see the post-game press conference. I'm sure they're going to talk about how great that crowd was, because down the stretch that crowd really helped them get some more defensive stops. And what can you say about Iowa State fans? It's been a rough week for all of us. And you get your biggest rival twice at home this week in men's and women's basketball, and these people are just looking to get they're hungry for something. And what a great opportunity for tomorrow for the men, but what an awesome night and atmosphere for the women.
I was telling Jake, I believe before we started recording the pregame, I was like, this has been the most insane couple of weeks, because if you go back to like the Oklahoma State basketball game or football game, and then you've got like, all the stuff with the football team, and then you've got volleyball playing in the NCAA tournament. Yeah. Oh, and you've got wrestling. Forgot that. And then you've got basketball. It's been an emotional roller coaster, and I think that's why this win tonight just feels so good. So I appreciate you coming on, filling in, Jackson. You can join this pregame and postgame anytime you would like. But you guys can all tune in tomorrow for the men's pregame and postgame show. They take on Iowa. But thank you all for joining us in the Northwest Bank Studios. Shout out to Karl Auto Group and Fairway Meat and Grocery. And shout out to Aiden for producing. Thanks again, guys.